Ricochet, more like R.I.P. O'Shea.
Wow. Yeah, you haven't done that in a while, and I wasn't ready for it.
See, it would written down. It would look like Rip O'Shea.
Yeah, no,
yeah. But if you say it out loud, it doesn't.
Welcome to the WrestleTalk podcast.
Go and watch my Bron Breakker reaction video.
More like I fully read. More like Bron Break him.
Welcome to the WrestleTalk podcast review of Monday Night Raw. I'll try and get us back on rails
Great
here, Dan,
start,
because you have derailed this show. Please do press the subscribe button, give us a little thumbs up as well. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts on this episode. We have also posted a reaction video. I got Tempest and Pete to watch the angle for the first time.
Oh, you've done that?
And they watched it here on the TV screen. And that video would have gone out ages ago, but YouTube has been a little prick today and has not been processing videos. So the news went out late, and that video went up 20 minutes before we went live.
Great.
So do you know what will happen to that in the algorithm? Absolutely nothing. It'll get absolutely tanked. So I need all of you to go and help me.
But like later.
Yeah.
Watch this first.
Open it. Like our moderators will do it now. So that click it, open it in a new tab, and then watch it afterwards.
Yeah.
I actually don't know if that'll increase the watch time on it either if it's been open for ages.
Yeah.
Probably not. But anyway, go and do that. I need people to watch this. So thank you very much. And we've also got, go and watch our shorts as well, because I'm working on them and I need them boosting the algorithm. I need help, people. Leave a comment down below. If you're watching us live, get in the live conversation. Boo us all you want for our things. Oh, did CM Punk do that joke?
Ricochet. Did he do that?
Well, unless yours one was.
Maybe what Bron broke him.
Yeah. Well, someone says stolen from CM Punk.
Well, the other one was I misread some Ultrachats as Bron Breakfast, so now that's what I'm going to be calling him for the foreseeable future.
But anyway, and then if you want to get your thoughts read out on the WrestleTalk.com/support, we'll read out all of them before the end of the show. Let's talk about actually the match that preceded all of this, which for my money was the best thing on this show.
Oh, I actually quite like the show overall. I think there was some ups and some downs, but I thought it was a solid little episode of television, and this match was tasty.
Yeah, I thought this was a fine episode of Monday Night Raw. This is one of those ones where I'm like, oh, I'm feeling the 3 hours.
I was so funny. Here. Maybe it's because last week I was worried coming into this that I was going to do a bad podcast again because I am sleepy and cold. It's very cold. It's June. It's like 10 degrees here. I'm so cross about it. We were playing upstairs Game of Thrones. What house are you in? And we decided that I'm a Lannister, which does make... I don't think I'm a Stark because I like the idea of being northern and honourable and all that stuff, but I can't deal with the cold. I want to be sat in the sun making money and drinking wine.
With your glass of Chardonnay.
That's all I want. Yeah, exactly. So, actually, I'm more of a Pinot Grigio kind of guy, but that's fine. So, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to make people cross in the comments today. But then, actually, I really enjoyed the show. Generally speaking, I think it was a massive step up from last week. And the Ilja Bron match just felt like whenever we talk about this new era, or this new WWE is different now, and that's what's going to be a part of this conversation that we have about Ricochet, and why one might like to leave, why one might like to stay. This is kind of an example of something that I feel like would have been a rarity, but feels more increased in presence in this new Triple H show. Do you know what I mean?
I would certainly say so, yeah. I mean, this is like a 16-minute match. It's two guys that they are giving huge pushes to on the main roster since their call-up from NXT. And this was like a showcase for them. Like, they've been involved in this feud with Ricochet, for the last couple of weeks. And now here they are. They're just going to go out there and have an absolutely banging match. And both of them come out looking the better for it.
Yeah.
So this is why
clean victory.
I never understand... clean victory. I never understand the argument of you can't get over with just wrestling. Whereas, these guys literally got over with the wrestling. I think the reason why part of my thought was I think this was a great episode of the show. I think part of that was this crowd sucked.
It was bad.
This Toledo crowd was awful, and they did not deserve how good this match was. There was a moment when they did a "This is awesome" chant, and I'm like, where have you been for the past? Where have you been for the other 13 minutes of this match? And it died out as quickly as it started. It took forever to start, and then it just died out very, very quickly thereafter. But I was there begging for them to make some noise for this, because this was just really, really great. What I loved about this was Dragunov selling the neck throughout. Like, even when he dropped the H-bomb, like, instantly went for the neck. He did his top rope senton, instantly went for the neck as well. But Bron, what I love about Bron selling in this match is that a lot of what Dragunov was doing was almost taking him by surprise.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, I'm being beaten up more than I'm used to in these matches. And it wasn't like a setting of like, oh, I've been hurt. It was setting of like, okay, this is quite, what can I do next? In order to, like, it was like powering him up almost. And I thought the two just worked together so brilliantly.
It's interesting as well because they mentioned at the beginning, you know, these guys have had a feud for several years. Like, you know, they carried NXT in a way, you know, that was the central part of the story, blah, blah, blah. But if you don't watch NXT regularly, there's like layers to wrestling viewers. I think a casual viewer that is part of the conversation we have all the time is far more likely to be someone who watches Raw. Right? That's not necessarily someone who doesn't watch wrestling for 9 months of the year and then just tunes in for a little bit or like goes in and out or might be flicking the channels. That's not what I think I mean by casual viewer. I think I mean someone who watches Raw on the semi-regular.
Yeah.
They might not have the full history of who Dragunov is, who Breakker is, and this is a really good introduction to them both. So it's kind of like almost like wiping the slate clean, and it's saying Dragunov is this guy who will feel like he's always going at 100%. Bron Breakker is this guy who will just close on your head off. This is what happens when these two things combine.
Absolutely. It's a match that tells you everything you need to know about them as characters and as wrestlers. I think what this achieved in this match is almost the complete... It is almost in everything that this achieved is everything that the women's tag match failed to do. That we get later on with the Unholy Union. Like that, I thought that was a complete failure of a segment. But this was a complete success of a segment for all of the reasons why this one was a failure over here. And we'll come on to that a little bit later on. And what I also, you know, you talk about the casual audience aspect of this, because I think this probably is a lot of people's first experience of Bron Breakker and Ilja Dragunov suddenly together, absolutely. But even like the last 3-4 weeks, it might have been people's first experience to Bron Breakker and Dragunov, because Bron Breakker got called up, but then wasn't featured on TV a whole great deal when he was over on SmackDown.
He's been in and out.
That's it. Yeah. But like, so now, like, this is the first time he's been featured in a storyline on the main roster, and people are really kind of getting into this. Certainly, like, you know, not there in this crowd for Toledo, but in previous weeks they have really been into the stuff that Bron Breakker's doing. But for me, the thing that struck me the most is when Ricochet showed up at the end. You know, you talk about how we are in this wrestling bubble. This crowd didn't react in a way of, oh, the news has spread.
Yeah.
You know, like, go back to back in the 90s when wrestlers were leaving promotions. Fans knew. Like, fans
it's hard
knew
to say because I was a kid, so I can't remember how much of that is hindsight and how much of that is real.
I think it's even going back and watching shows, like particularly going to ECW shows where it's the hardcore audience. They knew who was leaving.
Right.
They knew who's.
And that's where you have your Mike Awesome.
Yeah, like they knew who was leaving to go to WCW. They knew who was leaving to go to the WWF. That is an audience that was online, more or less, like that early, like that dawn of wrestling online fandom. They knew all of the ins and outs and things. You didn't really see it a lot at WCW shows, WWF shows, but you'd see it in like sort of smatterings of stuff. But then say you look at WrestleMania 20, when that whole crowd knew that Brock was leaving and that Goldberg was leaving, so they turn on the match. Like that is a hardcore audience that knows these people are leaving. Whereas I think if you go to an AEW show, those people are like online and like they know the ins and outs of things. This Toledo crowd did not know the Ricochet news, because if they did, they would have reacted much bigger than if they had not heard it. So see what I mean? Like, this was like, and I think the point I'm trying to make is that I think that we, as a sort of bubble, often talk about how like the IWC and this, that, and the other. But I actually do think that there are a bunch of wrestling fans, a much larger portion than we often give credit for, that just do not know. This idea that this idea that the dirt sheets spoil everything. Buddy, I just don't think I don't think a lot of people are reading them as much as you think.
Well, it depends how you consume the thing you like, right? Like and it's also something very specific about wrestling. I think probably because it is the style that it is, i.e. a mix of real and fake, right? A mix of reality and fiction blended together. We and it was presented as real for so long, and then we learned what kayfabe was. It's that peek behind the curtain. I think it lends itself to a kind of fan who wants to be in the know. Something I struggle with a lot is this feeling of like the smart mark of it all. I'm such a big fan of this that I know the insider terms, but that makes me more susceptible to being worked, kind of thing. I find it tricky as a viewer and as a fan sometimes to get. And when we talk about Ricochet's contract status and all the rest of it, there's examples of why I get a little bit like funny about it. But it almost is that thing of like, I can't blame a fan for wanting to know more and wanting to read the dirt sheets, and that's why the dirt sheets exist, because there is a need, supply and demand. Well, there is a demand for insider knowledge because we want to peek behind the curtain. It's like kids at Christmas, wanting to know what's in the shaking the wrapper or whatever. We want to know, oh, hang on, is there a chance CM Punk's going to show up at Survivor Series? That was kind of fun. That was a more fun example. Silly in many ways. Do you remember when they thought they saw his silhouette in the poster? And maybe they did in hindsight, I don't know. But like this whole business of...
They did.
I know, I'm being serious. But that was kind of silly and also interesting and also intriguing and but like whatever. But if it hadn't shown up, would that have spoiled your enjoyment? There's a weird ecosystem about it. I do think most people are just watching the television, enjoying their show, and then they finish it and they go off about their business. Like, I don't need to know with something like Taskmaster, which I just enjoy watching on television. I don't need to know whether or not the cast got on.
You don't listen to the Taskmaster podcast,
right? Yeah, but if you do, that's completely your prerogative. Like,
which I do,
right? Or like, sorry to the people who hate it when I do this, but Drag Race, right? Is a
oh, here he comes, Captain Woke over here and his snowflake shows.
It's just that I mentioned that I watch it. It really upsets them so much. But I think it's a really interesting comparison because there is a heavy online digging deep behind the scenes fan base who I watched one series and it was so great, and then I would find out the queens are online sniping at each other and there's a secret, I was rigged backstage and all of this stuff, and it kind of takes away from the enjoyment. It's a very, fandom is a complicated thing, I think.
It's also,
just to say that I think the WWE crowds, to use your example of the 90s and ECW and AEW, etc., I think your WWE crowd are mostly there just to watch the show and go on with their day. If you go hard into it, you'll find yourself in AEW, and like there's nothing wrong with that either. Like, that's a perfectly reasonable way of engaging with the thing that you love. The idea that it spoils it or whatever, it's like, I don't know. It's a weird thing.
The reason why I find it so interesting is less of a which side is right or which side is wrong, because neither side is right or wrong. It's just like, that is how you consume media. I don't get why people get so upset that AEW don't appease to the casual fans. This idea that you only appeal to the hardcore fans is a bad thing, because it's a successful business model that they have found, and they are doing quite well out of that. Like, it is not a bad thing to do that, in the same way that I don't think it is a bad thing that WWE appeal to the casual market.
No, I think to push back on that one slightly, I think where I have an issue, because I am someone who does have an issue with AEW sometimes catering to the overly online, which is Tony Khan overly online. Like, for me, I find it sometimes it's a bit too insider baseball. That's not to say that I need a video package for every single person who shows up on the television program, but it does a little bit mean that I sometimes can find myself being like, what are we doing here? The fact that, like, it feels like I fight for AEW, and it's like, okay, like, I didn't realize you needed to. Like, can we not have a storyline?
Well, that is a storyline.
That's for a different podcast, but
but that is a wrestling storyline.
But they do it all the time.
How are they doing it? Like, they've just started this storyline, like, over the last few months or so.
I feel like for about a year, I've sort of had seen people come out and do a promo being like that they would bleed for AW. I'm here for AW.
Yeah, it's proud to wrestle company, but like, there's not the only defining factor of their character.
I guess my point is, it feels
I don't
like
think that's
to me as a viewer.
This is a different argument for a different.
That's what I'm saying. But it feels to me as a viewer that it can sometimes be like that, which means it feels like it's too insider.
I disagree. I think we'll table that there, because I think we will just go down a rabbit hole here. I was also going to mention as well earlier that this idea of like the online fan for wrestling and stuff and needing to know thing is not unique to wrestling. Right. The Hollywood Reporter exists for a reason. Deadline and Variety exist for a reason. If you are you can just go to movies and watch movies, or you can read the Hollywood Reporter and Variety and get the insider dirt on those movies and the movies and how they're being made and the backstage arguments and this, that, and the other. It's exactly the same as wrestling. It's just that wrestling is a much more cartoony world, and I think people sort of look down upon it for that reason. And I think wrestling fans look down upon it for that reason as well, even though it's in all sports. Like, it's just that it's more mainstream for the Mirror to post, to have it on the back pages of their newspaper, backstage scuttlebutt over football teams and stuff. Is exactly the same as Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer or Sean Ross Sapp on Fightful Select and this, that, and the other. But anyway, that's interesting, the point to this is Ricochet, the news came out over the weekend that he had informed WWE that he was not going to re-sign. And once his contract is up, which is supposed to be in the first half of the summer, whatever that means. I suppose we're...
Are we not in? No, it's not started yet. June 21st is when summer starts. But
so the first half of the summer, his contract's up. So PWInsider's report was that WWE were working on creative plans to write him out of storylines very soon. And then Fightful Select added to that, being like, we've also heard creative pitches. It's going to involve Bron Breakker. But what we got here is that this is a storyline that has been written, an angle that was done, that is to write him off TV in case he does not re-sign. So what happened is that later on in the show, Ilja Dragunov and Bron Breakker finished their match. Bron won with the spear after hitting 3 of them. And he then tried to attack Ilja after the match, but Ricochet made the save and stopped that. Ricochet then later on in the show is helping Ilja Dragunov backstage, and Bron spears Dragunov again, and he drags Ricochet out into the parking lot. They have a brawl, and he just starts battering him around. He throws him into one of the production trucks, lawn darts him like he's Rey Mysterio in 1996 into one of the production trucks, right into Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart, no less. And then he pulls him up onto the stairs in the production truck, hoists him up for a body slam, and he body slams him onto a car windshield. Very spectacular, very cool visual. And they cut to the commercial break, like, Petey Williams and Daivari, they're sort of like trying to separate it out.
You loved it.
It's a 5-star show. And we cut to commercial break, we come back, and they have this clip of like Samantha Irvin watching on from the ringside area. She then went backstage, and they carted off Ricochet into an ambulance, gave a little thumbs up, which we think is a little sign to Orange Cassidy. I'm coming soon. And they hulk him up into the ambulance, and off he goes. Likely to be Ricochet's final WWE appearance for now. Who's to say that he won't re-sign in 5 years' time or whatever? Because no one knows what's going to happen in the next 5 years. What happened with AEW 5 years ago? No one knew what was going to be the situation we're currently now. CM Punk's back. So I thought it was a wicked angle. I thought it was a really, really good angle. And the reason why I thought this was so great and so effective is not only was it quite a classy send-off for Ricochet, like it wasn't a burial on the way out because you're probably going to go to the competition. But crucially, it was putting over this up-and-coming guy. And I think even better than that, it ties into everything they've been doing with Bron for the last few weeks anyway. Like, even if the news of Ricochet leaving hadn't come out, this would not have felt out of place for the angles they've been doing with Bron for the past couple of weeks anyway. So I thought, overall, this is just a huge, huge success.
And to your point about it being the various levels of how much you know and don't know, it is one of those where had we not known that he was potentially going to leave, and then we saw this angle, and then it was like, the reason they did this angle was because of this, and that's when the news came out. I think it would have been still in a really effective segment anyway.
Would have been.
And it was also something that if you're just couldn't care less, don't look at that news, as you say, it's a really effective segment. It gave me such 90s WCW or backstage. I love the Rock Cody segment back by the bus was fun for me. I love all of that stuff. So it was
Where's your mama?
And I liked it, but I liked it in when a lot of stuff happened in the parking lot in Attitude Era stuff.
NXT is the most dangerous place in the world.
Literally,
the parking lot outside the Performance Center.
Jesus,
don't go there.
Go find another way in. I don't know. So that's something that I quite like anyway. So as a segment, I just thought it was tremendously effective. When you then, to your point about it being a classy send off, I think it's something that we've seen from both sides. The way they sent Jade Cargill off was really great. I think the way that equally Adam Copeland got sent off has been really great. I think we are in a different era now where you don't have to necessarily bury yourself to be leaving. I don't think this feels like, oh my god, Ricochet got absolutely destroyed. I think that I did see a couple of. This is why I try and stay a little bit one step removed from being too online, because I did see an awful lot of like the people who broke the news, engaging in reverse trolling. Like they'd been trolled, so they were giving as good as they got, kind of thing. And it's a little bit like, oh, that's such a negative headspace to have to work through to do your job. Do you know what I mean? That's not me criticizing them. That's me.
I was going to say, I think if you get the levels of
that's what I'm
crap
saying.
Sean gets on a daily basis, you probably would just just posting the receipts, just be like, yeah, but I was right again.
It's infuriating for them. I'm not having a go. I'm just like, I'm glad I'm not involved in that.
I think particularly as well because they often get attacked by grifters from the 90s with their own podcast platforms now. They're basically like, the dirt sheets know nothing, and then the dirt sheets keep getting everything right. But the people who want to believe that the dirt sheets get nothing right just try to find the times when they get something wrong and then keep getting schooled.
Especially when the show's still going on. That's a Man United thing. Unless the final whistle has gone, anything can happen. Don't.
Yeah.
So
I made a joke about this in my edited review today. I did a whole thing of when Ricochet showed up, being like, oh, I thought he was leaving. Dirt sheets in the mud once again.
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh no. I was wrong.
Yeah.
Is there a way for me to delete Instagram DMs?
I thought also it was one of those things where it neatly sends Ricochet off, and we may never see Ricochet again, or at least for like a few years or whatever. But the fact that earlier on in the show he'd also had that backstage segment with Dragunov where they went, I owe you one, kind of thing.
Yeah, we'll do this later again.
Yeah. Who knows when? Like, it's one of those things where, if Ricochet were to be like, no, do you know what? I actually like this money, I like this experience, I'll stay here for a while. They've got two feuds for different reasons. One, Bron Breakker, pure revenge. One, Dragunov, let's have some matches together. Likewise, if he wants to go off and do his other thing, there's no loose ends at this point.
Yeah.
It's a loose end if you want it to be, or it's a nice tide. He's destroyed the poor guy.
It'll be interesting to see if they address it next week. Just have little Michael Cole just at the desk with an update to be like, he was seen by medical. There's a chance he may never wrestle again. Bleeding. Or we don't know. We'll have an update when we have it, and then we just sort of never mention him again. But you at least are addressing. You don't just send him off in an ambulance, then never mention him again.
And in the spirit of being a wrestling traditionalist, it's like putting over the young talent on the way out. It's like it's not. It was a great night for Bron Breakker. It was not a negative night for Ricochet.
Absolutely. And I think the classy send-off, I think, is really interesting in that one of the things I think we're kind of seeing with this wrestling war that we're in is that anyone going to any show doesn't really become a needle mover anyway, because people have already sort of planted their flags. And so, it doesn't really matter who goes across to AEW or who from AEW goes across to WWE. The viewership or the attendance kind of just remains the same. So you don't have to go into that 90s mentality of bury them on the way out, because then when they show up in the competition, they look bad.
Yeah.
Because we're in a classier age than that.
It's not necessary.
Exactly. We're in a classier era. B, it's unnecessary to have that mentality. And see, it doesn't really make a blind bit of difference anyway. So you may as well just be nice about it.
And look, they're going to make their snipes here and there. They're going to say someone didn't want to do the grind. They're going to say someone shagged the boss's daughter. They're going to. It's like I guess that's the.
It's part of the wrestling war banter. Is that if you are on this side, you say that this side sucks. If you're on that side, you say that the other side sucks.
Yeah.
That is just part of it. What kind of winds me up is people taking it personally. It's like, they're not attacking you, bud.
Yeah. But also your point about how they, in 5 years' time, you could well come back or whatever.
Absolutely.
Wrestling careers are a lot bigger, longer now, thankfully. So the idea that you,
Balor's in his Priest is in his 40s. He's the world champion.
Yeah. So the idea that you want to maintain that kind of relationship or whatever. I mean, CM Punk being in WWE shows that no feud is in the ground forever.
Absolutely.
So
Ultimate Warrior came back.
Right, exactly, yeah. So there's always a space for reconciliation somewhere, but
there's why not? They don't even need reconciliation because they're not leaving on bad terms.
Exactly.
So it is a case of I can sign with AEW.
No, my point was that if it's not that you have to send them off nicely so that one day they'll come back.
Yeah.
Because reconciliation always happens in wrestling. It's just
absolutely.
One of those
that's
things.
fair. Yeah.
So here it's a case of being like, we could be a dick about it, or we could just, use it as a storyline.
But also the key to it is that this was done in case he does not resign. Yeah. Because if he does resign, if he wakes up tomorrow morning, if Ricochet wakes up tomorrow and is like, actually, do you know what? I think I am better off staying in WWE. And he does resign his contract, you've now got a ready-made match. Because you've set this match up. You can bring him back, a couple of months down the line. You can bring him back as a big SummerSlam moment, and you can do a big SummerSlam match between Ricochet and Bron. You have created an angle that can have a match payoff. It's a very smart bit of business.
Yeah,
it's not final.
Yeah.
This is not finality.
Yeah.
Plus, in 5 years' time, if he does ever go back, like you signed yourself to AEW for a 5-year deal, and then you decide at the end of that 5 years, I think I've actually done a lot here. I'm going to go back to WWE because there's some new opportunities from there. You've almost got a ready-made feud. Yeah. Again, you could bring it back. It's like 5 years ago, you sent me to the hospital, and now I'm back and it's better, and we're off to the races. I mean, I've seen a lot of bad faith criticism. I'm talking about Ricochet leaving. This idea of the theory is the reports are likely heading towards AEW. I have seen the bad faith takes. Immediately they came out because I did the live stream news. Immediately it's like, oh, he's just a flippy mid-carder. Like, oh, he had a ceiling, a flippy mid-carder. There's only so much you can do with him. I think there's a lot of bad faith takes that immediately came out in the news of him leaving. Where do you land on Ricochet leaving and potentially going to AEW?
I won't feel a hole in my weekly WWE program if Ricochet leaves, which is a damning indictment, I think, of the way he has been used for the past few years. I would imagine he probably has a hangover from the Vince era, and there's a lot of people who sort of felt that way. I think, Randy Orton even talks about how it's a lot nicer now. Like, he did an interview recently where it was like, I'm glad he's gone because it feels different now.
Yeah.
But there are some people who haven't been at the Randy Orton level of their career, and who did feel like it's time for them to go and experience something a little bit different. I don't think it was funnily enough, it was during the Braun Strowman appearance on this show where I was like, oh, I'll miss that partnership never had a chance to really fully go there.
Especially because they did the Dragon Lee
finish. The spot. Yeah. And it was one of those things where, like, that example was like, there is a space where you can use this tool, this effective key team player really well in your show, but they just never did. And I think that's what I mean when I feel like I won't miss. I'm not going to watch it be like, I feel like Ricochet should be in that spot. Do you know what I mean? And I hope that doesn't sound disrespectful to Ricochet, because I think he's a hell of a talent. I've seen in talking about faith, I've seen that clip go around where Drew just absolutely shuts him down. It's like, I didn't come here to talk. I think there is an element where he never found his feet on the mic, and that is something in WWE's style of producing wrestling is crucial. But part of that maybe was that he never really got the opportunity. And over the past year or so, he has, and I've seen improvement, and I've seen, space for him to be the sort of best version of the WWE version of Ricochet. Again, what I was kind of referring to earlier on, where I talk about like not loving dirt sheet my personal preference to not go into contracts and reasons why people is because people have their own reasons. It's one of those things where I don't know everything that's going on in a person. You pointed out Hollywood and the Hollywood Reporter and all that stuff. I don't like those either. It's not a specific wrestling thing. I don't like knowing too much about someone's personal life. I don't like knowing because I don't. On a micro level, I've been in that position where people have in my life have broken up, and because we've been on the British YouTube scene, people know who we are, and people assert knowledge of a situation with precisely zero, and they're not. But they also don't see the full extent. So from that lived experience, I don't like going there. It's Ricochet's choice to make. And if he wants to go to AEW and have some matches with some different people and wrestle in a different style, because AEW has a slightly less programmed or prescribed style of what we want for our television matches or whatever, that is entirely his prerogative.
Yeah.
And it's got no bearing on what Samantha Irvin wants to do either.
Oh, absolutely not.
I see that a lot.
Yeah, that's the other thing as well. Just like, oh, well, who's going to stay because she's there. And it's like, well, buddy, like it's Rhea Ripley and Buddy Matthews are in different promotions as well. Like this happens a lot within the world of wrestling. Like that's part of my job as well. But even before it was my job, I was a guy that I've been a subscriber to the Wrestling Observer since 2006.
Yeah.
Like, I am a long-time subscriber of that. I'm coming up to nearly 20 years as a subscriber to the Wrestling Observer newsletter. I'm a subscriber to Patreon, to Fightful Select.
Yeah.
Like, I was subscribed to PWInsider Elite for a while. I was subscribed to The Torch for a while. Like, I do like this sort of thing.
Yeah.
I read The Hollywood Reporter. I read Variety. And I like to kind of get this sort of insider on things. Which
is so fine, by the way. Like, and what I'm not saying is that it's the wrong thing to do.
And I know you're not either. But like, for my thing is, it's never a personal. I don't need to know about people's alcohol addictions. Or I don't need to know about like who's dating who. Like, that has got zero interest in me whatsoever. But someone's contract is coming up. That is a fact.
Yeah, it's interesting.
That is an interesting fact. But I would never then be like, well, he's going to do this for X, Y, and Z, or he's thinking A, B, and C. Because I don't know. I don't know him personally. I don't know Trev. I don't know what he's thinking on a daily basis. But I can look at that, and then from that I can be like, well, maybe I could say things like something like, well, maybe he thinks, and you can sort of speculate on that. But I would never like want to know, or I'd need to know what he is actually thinking. But maybe he just got to a point where it's like, I've been here for 7 years.
Yeah,
I joined in 2017. It's 2024 now. Maybe I've got to a point where I'm like, I'll just go see what they're doing over there.
Yeah.
And I haven't been on the independent scene now for 7 years. So let's go and see what that's like. See how the landscape has changed.
We all have our own experiences of life.
Absolutely.
And we all have our own goals. And there comes a certain point where you're like, I've been following a certain career path for an extended period of time. That means I want to try something different. Or it might just be, do you know what? I'm actually quite happy with my bit part here in this company. And, it's kind of props to you. And again, we say this every single time, so preach to the choir a little bit, but it's good that they have all these options. It's a good thing.
It's a good thing to have these options, because 7 years ago, he wouldn't have had this many options.
Yeah.
And like, when I say this many options, there were plenty of places that you could work, but plenty of places that would have lots of money to be able to give you to work. It's sort of a different. There's more places to go out and make money. Than there were a few years ago. So I think it's an interesting time that we're in. What I find interesting about the Ricochet thing, well, obviously I just go, good, anything else happen on the show? We'll get to the other bits in a minute. We'll get to your Ultrachats as well in a second. I think we've 2024 is the year of contracts. And I think we had all resigned ourselves to be like, well, WWE is the hottest product right now. Of course, everyone is going to re-sign. When Chad Gable's contract, I was like, well, my money would be that he'll likely resign. Becky Lynch, my money would be on she'll likely resign. Seth Rollins, it's exciting that their contract's coming up, but I think they're staying. Ricochet's betting on himself and he's going to go elsewhere. And I find that's a very interesting time period that we're in. That the hottest product in the world, someone has said like, I'm going to go see what else is going on. And I think that's great.
On where you're at. Like, Chad Gable is in a pretty important storyline at the moment. Drew McIntyre is pretty high on that. When Drew McIntyre's contract was potentially up, I think we spoke about it, and my point was like, you're right now, you're in the world title picture, top of the card, in the hottest promotion in the world. Are you going to find the same level of satisfaction elsewhere? I think Ricochet is an example of someone who would. I think Adam Copeland is an example of someone who was like, I've achieved everything I wanted to in this company. There's not really plans for me to go anywhere, and I have this second wave of my career that I never thought I had. I might as well make the absolute most of it.
I've only ever wrestled in WWE.
Exactly. So he wanted to go. I think there is, depending on the wrestler, it's not a given that someone like MJF, wouldn't it be an attractive prospect going to WWE? Oh, you want to stay here in AEW where the same thing I said about Drew McIntyre is true of you? Crack on. Like, I think it's a case-by-case basis.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Well, let's see what you think about this situation. Let us know in the comments down below. Join us in the live chat as well. And if you want this to be read out on the air, you want your thoughts read out on the air, WrestleTalk.com/support. Matt here said, if this is the end of Ricochet's WWE run, it's quite the way to write him off and add more heat to Breakker versus Dragunov. Looking at Ricochet's WWE run, I can't say it was bad. He had a lot of success winning multiple titles and accolades like the IC title, US title, NXT North America title, and the Dusty Tag Team Classic. So, yes, on paper, that's true. But like, I can't tell you anything about that IC title run. Like, I think just giving someone an accolade is just giving someone an accolade. That's not substance. Like, that is just... It's Miz. I'm a 9-time Intercontinental Champion. I'm like, okay, well, I don't remember any of those runs, apart from the 2016 one. Before
I was so about to.
That brief period of time we had it in 2016, all right? Matt continues, but I think he has a ceiling as a reliable mid-carder, given how stacked the WWE roster is and how the main event scene is, it's not a bad role. But if a guy wants more, I get it. To be honest, while I think he will have some fun matches in AEW, I see him in that same mid-card ceiling that he has in WWE, for the simple fact that, like WWE, AEW has a stacked roster and main event scene. Nothing wrong with that role, and I don't see him becoming world champion. It's funny, when news came out about Ricochet's WWE deal and Pentagon Jr.'s AEW deal expiring, I assumed both would sign new deals, and then over the weekend there were reports saying that Ricochet is expected to go to AEW when his deal expires, while people within AEW expect Pentagon to go to WWE. Wrestling is crazy, and I love it for being this way. Yeah, I mean, to your point, Matt, like, not everyone gets to be world champion.
Yeah, there is a finite number of days in the year for people to be world champions. So
but as long as you're satisfied with what you're doing.
I'm trying. Who did I see?
Like, I'm not a main eventer here. Like, I'm not main event talent, but I'm satisfied in my work.
Yeah, like Alan Shearer never won a World Cup. Still pretty good.
Yeah. Absolutely is. Yeah. Kuzu here said, press F to pay respects for Ricochet. That concrete bump was gnarly. Hope he's okay. Triple H let Tony have Ricochet, but he didn't say anything about sending him in one piece. Dragunov going to need his own revenge, and Bron looks like an absolute monster. The Big O. Ever since I saw him in a WCPW ring, I've been a big old Ricochet mark. Wherever he goes next, presumably AEW, I wish him nothing but the best, and I can't wait to see what he does. What is your favorite Ricochet match in WWE? I think the most likely answer people will give was that Adam Cole one the
one that gets gift.
Yeah, the one that gets gift a lot.
Yeah,
I actually really love his small tag run he had with Aleister Black.
Yeah,
and like the match that he had with War Machine at Takeover, which I think was the Dusty Classic final, if I'm not mistaken, or it might have been like the reward from being in the Dusty Classic. That match is awesome.
Yeah,
like that is a really, really good match. On that same note, that ladder match, the Takeover ladder match for the North American Championship. Every single person in that match is now gone from WWE. Isn't that insane?
They shouted them out on Battleground over the weekend. Yeah. So it's again, it was another different era. Speaking of Aleister Black, though, could you imagine if he shows up selling the ribs injury? I'd quite enjoy that. I think it'd be, you know how he showed up with his eye.
I would love it.
Yeah,
because I think that wrestling should exactly. It's kayfabe.
Bit of kayfabe.
Sky here said, it genuinely annoys me how much I enjoyed Pat taking over ring announcing duty. Would never want it again. I'm not saying Bron had to kill Ricochet, but I feel like they held back a bit. I know Bron had a match, so tired, but he didn't. He did more to that Dixon guy.
Yeah, I know. I know what you're saying. I don't agree because I think it was one of those things where it's like you could go over the top, and that would feel like, wow, they absolutely obliterated the guy. Whereas what they wanted to do, pretty much from the second I could feel that when he hit the production truck. I was like, oh, that's painful. I know what that feels like. I don't know what it feels like to be slammed into a car window, but I know what my back hurting feels like. So I think they did the exact right amount, and I loved Samantha going with him because again, that's that blend of reality and fiction. We know, and yet it would have felt so weird for her to stay out there. So the fact that they thought about that and gave us that moment,
they've established it on TV. So
one match with Pat McAfee being a bit silly on the mic was perfect. Again, it was so well measured.
I really, really liked it. To your point as well of like, you know, things hurts even just sort of looking at them. We were filming some skits for a WrestleTalk original we got coming up about Money in the Bank. So we were filming some skits of me climbing up a ladder to change a light bulb and stuff. I had to do quite a few takes of me sort of like stretching up and pretend to reach up. I genuinely hurt my back.
You big brave soldier.
Honestly, it got to the end of the screen. I was like, lads, I don't know how many more takes of this I've got in me because my back's really starting to like tense up.
If we do a Money in the Bank watch longer, you're gonna have tape ribs. Is that it's gonna?
I'm going in with the injured.
Yeah, you're gonna like all that strapping on your arm.
Well, let's get into the rest of the show. Please do keep getting in your Ultrachats, WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out all of them before the end of the show. First of all, just another quick thing to say that I thought Toledo was terrible. Toledo, no, let's not go there again.
I see. You're making a point.
Oh, hi, no, thanks.
Yeah. Oh, hi,
Drew opened the show and said that he would be the champion at this time next week. Damien Priest came out. They made a Joe Hendry reference on commentary. And Priest got the what treatment. Already I was against this crowd because I'd putting in my position now to ban that chant forever. Mm-hmm. And he said, look, I'm the world champion because I'm the world champion. It's not because of these guys here. In fact, I'm going to set up a match between you and Finn Balor for the main event tonight. And if you win, then the Judgment Day will be banned from ringside at Clash of the Castle. And Drew responded with, like, Yep, I like a man who digs his own grave.
Adam Pearce wasn't here. Who made this match? Really? Who's in control? I know that sounds like that is nitpicking, but I'm also like, sure.
I think it's Christopher Daniels.
Oh, okay, great,
Yeah.
good, yeah.
Or
unless he was like Adam Pearce was on the laptop in Jacksonville.
Yeah. The amount of people, by the way, who didn't get that we were having a bit of fun. So on the 3 count, we got Adam Pearce. We both made Christopher Daniels jokes,
right.
And I called him a little because everyone called Christopher Daniels Little Adam Pearce.
Great.
So I was like Little Christopher Daniels.
Yeah.
No one was like, "Oh, Adam Pearce came first." I'm like, "Man, it's a fucking joke." Like, leave off. Liv and Dom were chatting backstage, and Liv was all being flirty, and she wants to like call him daddy.
Yeah, it was a bit hot. To this point, I feel like this is kind of an illustration of what I was saying last week, which was like, I thought this, because they recapped the segment from last week where I felt it was a bit stilted. This was great. I thought it was really effective. And the through running for the whole show.
Yeah, because she's given him her hotel room key card.
That is so sexy. If you are in like a conference and you're single and you're like flirting with someone, just slip my hotel key, and it's like, well, with their consent. Like, I see, read the signals. Like,
just moderate. Can we ban Joshua here for saying that Everest sucks? Everest is like the best pup of Paw Patrol. Why on earth would you come onto a podcast and say something as scandalous as that? I'm putting the ban hammer down on my own here, moderators. Get rid of this guy. Get him out of here. I don't want to see him anymore.
Why are they talking about Paw Patrol? Why have we lost him? We spent too long on Ricochet.
I've been talking about Paw Patrol a lot on WrestleTalk. Yeah. It's a great show. Lyra Valkyria took on Iyo Sky in a very good match with a heatless crowd. I don't blame the 2 people in the ring for that. I thought the finish of this was a little bit on the messy side of things because Lyra hit Nightwing for the win.
Yeah.
And Dakota Kai broke up that pin pretty much right in front of the referee.
Yeah, they said the referee didn't see it, and the ref was, in fairness, back to Dakota Kai. But it was one of those where I was like, at least eject him from ringside.
Also, like, if you're the referee, it's like, what do you think happened?
Yeah. Well, the Lyra like let go of the pin, or there was a kick out, or whatever. I could go with it. This will be the last thing we say about this crowd, which was fascinating because it was a sellout, and they hyped how much of a sellout it was. There was those really cool crowd shots that they did that I really love, especially when they start off and they kind of like, "Way!" I love all of that stuff. So props to them for doing that. It was so evident. I was like, why aren't you here for this? I don't understand, because this match is actually quite good. Then yes, the messy finish at the end, but it was again lovely to see Lyra just continue to be great. Do
you know what I love about this as well is they're now 1-on-1.
Yeah.
So Lyra got the knees up on the over the moonsault, and Iyo Sky got the win by grabbing her by the hair during the roll up. I thought it was like a really, really neat. Like, I thought that bit of the finish was actually very neat. And Damage Control continued to beat down Lyra until the Party Girls ran out to make the save. But yeah, Lyra and Iyo Sky now 1-on-1, and like this is. I've been banging this drum now for ages. You do not need titles to have stories.
Yeah.
These are 2 people who are feuding not with a title. Bron Breakker and Dragunov are feuding not over a title. Like, they are just in a rivalry.
Yeah, you kind of get often that in the men's division. It doesn't often happen in the women's division.
Not.
And like I said last week, potentially looking ahead to Money in the Bank and having a feud going into Money in the Bank where neither of them have to win, but they can take each other out of the equation is quite a very smart and just simple way, effective. Yeah.
So backstage, Dom was looking all sad, and he tells the rest of the group that we've got this hotel key card, and they sort of put it on the table. They also sort of be like, whoa, and then Carlita then goes, "That's cool."
I cackled. I was like, that was really effective. And then we'll be like, "It's not cool." It is cool. Yeah, it's like, it is pretty cool. Like Carlita's like, "Hey Dom, baller, put it here." Like, I loved it.
That's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. I thought it was very,
very good.
We got a recap of Sami and Chad from last week, and then backstage, Miz was looking for R-Truth. More on that later. And Sami walks up to Maxxine and Tozawa, because he's a good guy. He apologized. Have you watched the tape back? Yeah, we did. Yeah, see, it wasn't my fault, right? Like, it's Chad. Like, he's a bad dude.
I really relate to Sami because I can't let things go either. I have a desperate need to please everybody. So I would also be like...
This is why you apologize every time you bring up Drag Race.
Yeah.
And then Otis walks up, and because he's a good guy, he apologized to Sami for attacking him last week. And Sami's like, bud, look, I get it, because I've also been in this sort of abusive relationship in a faction before. Thing is, like, I get my stance on this because I was with Roman Reigns. I was with, like, the world champion, and it was affording me loads of opportunities. Like, I don't get what you're getting out of this. Like, what are you getting out of being Chad Gable's lackey? And Otis cut this brilliant little promo. And it shuts down all of Sami's points and almost going to make Sami, I get it now. Like, previously I didn't understand this, but now I understand you as a character member, and for us as the audience. I get now why he sticks with Chad. And he says, I have lost everything. I lost my Money in the Bank briefcase. I lost my Peach. I lost my Tucky. And every single time I lost one of those, granted 2 of those were at the same time, but every time I lost one of those things, Chad Gable was there with me. Without him, I am nothing. And Sami's just like, I think you're more than that. Like, I think you're more than nothing.
It's kind of verbalizing that thing that I think was part of the conversation about what's the ceiling for Otis, in a way. It's putting it in the canon of the television program to say, you know, I am nothing without him, because he sort of picked me up. I really loved this. I really thought it was really effective. Good. And then, you know, talking about how much he cares about Tozawa and Maxxine, and it being like, you know, their family and stuff. I loved it. I thought it was really effective.
Judgment Day, we're hanging out. The hotel key card has disappeared.
This is the MacGuffin of the episode.
We got a little recap of NXT Battleground, and then Ludwig Kaiser cut a promo putting himself over. The rise of Kaiser, announcing himself for Money in the Bank. But then Michael Cole said there's going to be qualifying matches. So it's not like Jey Uso didn't just say, I'm in the match, and Lyra didn't say, I'm just in the match. They are announcing their intentions to win Money in the Bank, but there'll be qualifying matches starting next week.
So, no, we've got 3 weeks until Money in the Bank. We've probably need to fill those TV shows.
Yeah, well, we've done a real bad job of this with Clash of the Castle. Let's not repeat these mistakes coming into Money in the Bank. The LWO team with Braun Strowman to take on the Judgment Day. While this crowd did not like much on this show, they bloody loved them some Braun Strowman. They were super into Braun Strowman. This match went way longer than it needed to. Massive house show energy for this one. In the end, Braun finally got the hot tag, did his choo-choo stuff. I've written here, this is the first thing that's been truly over this evening. And then Dragon Lee leapt off Strowman's shoulders for the win. I enjoyed the house showness of it all.
Yeah.
I did not need it to go as long as it did.
I mean, I feel that about a lot of things, but I in this case, I just really liked the match. I thought it was quite fun. I really enjoyed Carlito's commitment. He was like, I'll wrestle, but not at the expense of being comfy. He's going to wear his tracksuit the whole time. No gear for you.
It's one of my favorite Carlito stories. I think it's on a Sandman shoot interview. So in like 2007, Carlito's given up.
Yeah.
Like he'd given up in 2006, really. But 2007, he's really given up. And Sandman has never really been into working at WWE either. And they were booked against each other at a house show. And Sandman walks up, and Carlito walks up and is like, "Bud, like, I just don't really want to do anything today." And Sandman replies like, "That is great, because I don't want to do anything either." So they just went out there and did nothing.
Right. Well, they just sat in the ring.
Well, you say, just do loads of headlocks,
Lovely.
Loads of rest holds, and then one of them wins. Like that's Carlito.
Poor people who spent the money to watch Sandman. But yeah, I thought elsewhere, I really enjoyed the Braun Strowman stuff as well. I really enjoyed him coming out with a t-shirt that says "One Big Sob," because that's a big mood. I've been trying to workshop
2020,
trying to workshop a meme format the whole time, but I couldn't quite.
Well, I think I said
something like, "Me when I think I'm having a good day, my depression." Like one big sob.
My last week I thought it said "One Big Job,"
right?
Like before, and then I was like, "Oh, sob." Okay, sob. Yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, I also really liked. Well, you haven't mentioned it yet, so we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, I mean, when I talk about like I felt like this match had more time than it kind of needed. I'm looking at that women's tag match later, and I'm like, that needed some time. Particularly because that's building to a pay-per-view match, but we'll come on to that in a little bit. So yeah, the actual big story of this is that Liv Morgan came down, and she got up onto the apron. Dom, in a terrible little bit of staging, but was to give a nice little payoff, got out of the ring to get down on the floor so he could tell Liv to leave. Zelina Vega then pushed Liv off the apron, and she landed onto Dom in a Luther's press, And then she just started grinding away on him like Alexa Bliss that one time during the Randy Orton feud.
I remember it well.
And yeah, she just started grinding away on him. He did very little to stop this, but Finn Balor got in. I have been corrected in one of the Ultrachats as well, because I kept saying that he was being cock-blocked. And they pointed out, Ben is here to say that it's not cock blocking when a woman is being stopped from hooking up with a guy that she wants. It's called clam jamming. So
I hate that. And the both of you.
I very much apologize for that. So he made sure that she got clam jammed in this scenario.
I don't want it.
Sorry, did you not hear me?
Move on.
Clam jammed. And then I think that's going to be a new finish as well. The clam jam.
Stop it!
NBA Clam on the Sega Mega Drive. Everybody get up, it's time to clam now.
Get on!
She was getting on, and she was getting off.
Oh, I love this storyline, but I hate them for making me listen to Dad talk about it over here.
Our moderator Brandon's just said, I just audibly gagged.
That's it.
But anyway, that was the big spot of the match. That's what led to the finish. And then Zelina Vega and Liv got into a brawl. So I'm going to guess that's Liv's first program for the world title.
I was kind of intrigued. I thought maybe they might set up a little match at Clash at the Castle to give Liv a reason to be there. She doesn't need one. She's a champ. But if they do want to do a little program with Zelina and Liv, that's nice and neat.
I think you want to have a much bigger program for Liv as world champion.
Yeah, but this is not a match to have at Clash of the Castle.
Well, yeah, we've already got our 5.
Yeah, that's true.
We've got our fill.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was a fun, effective angle, and the internet has very much enjoyed it.
Yes, of course they have, because it was great. This is a great story. I think that's why I'm high on this episode, is that I like a story that goes through the whole show. I like effective use of backstage segments when in-ring segments might feel clunky, and I liked that it was just a little silly.
It was very silly.
I enjoyed it all.
Yeah. I've looking at, because Tempest saw this in the office and had a big whoa reaction to it. I did not have a big whoa reaction to it. I was like, that is a very very telegraphed wrestling spot, and it was okay.
Sometimes I feel like I work with people who would go in the news agents and furtively look at the top shelf and hope no one noticed. You're all as bad as each other.
Clam that.
Stop it!
Thank you very much.
Stop it! No, I'm going to take everything down. I'm not allowing this to happen.
We had Dragunov and Ricochet chatting backstage. This is where they said, oh, hey, maybe we'll have a match later on down the line. I got pretty excited. Wargasm are the band doing the song for Clash of the Castle. It's one of the first times in a while that WWE have got a band doing the theme song, and I already know them and I like them.
Is that the one that sounds a little bit like Darude? Sandstorm?
Whichever one, the song they had in the background. I don't know what you think.
When they did the rundown of the card at the end of the show, I was like, is this a sampling Darude? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a band called Wargasm. They did a song with Fred Durst recently. Damage Control tried to calm down Iyo Sky, but she carried on screaming.
She really did. She screamed all the way to Japan.
Yes, because she's wrestling. She announced that we were going to be in Marigold.
Yeah.
We then got Sami Zayn versus Otis. Sami.
Sorry, just on the Iyo Sky screaming thing. It cut back, and Michael Cole essentially was like, well, that happened. And there were a few places during the show where both Michael Cole and Pat sort of gave it a, all right, and then move on. And the same thing with the QR codes. Well, there's that bloody QR code stuff again. And it doesn't, I find it a little bit irritating, because it's like, it makes me feel like the bit that you're trying to sell to me, I shouldn't buy. Mm-hmm. It's the opposite of what that role should be doing. Yeah. And I've spotted it a couple of times, and it's getting on my tits. Sami Zayn took on Otis. Sami cut a promo before the match, saying that this is going to be the end of the story this week. Chad comes out, and Sami said, look, do you think all of these people are happy? I would say that all the good that backstage segment was, this was all covering the same ground that we have covered previously. And Otis then basically just beat up Sami Zayn a bunch. Mm-hmm. He dominated this match. Chad Gable distracted Otis, and Sami hit the Hoover kick. It was just one offensive move in the match and got the win. This is twice they've done this with Sami now, and it's not how I would build my Intercontinental Champion. Yeah, it's an interesting one where I feel like this was a good opportunity to almost showcase us Otis as single star, because I think we said on the Battleground review yesterday, Trick as champion, he's still quite green. He's not like the most polished star, but when you're getting reactions like that and you've just called up Carmelo, Dragunov, and Breakker, you can't not put your most over person in that position as champion. So there was an argument to be made. Maybe you give the belt to Ethan Page, and he can be the sort of heel guy that Trick is improving with. When you have someone like Otis who's getting this level of crowd reaction, you have to very seriously consider whether or not you want to put him in that position. It's just smart business. So if they want to give us a reason as fans to see him as a single star, to see him, give him a lengthy little match there. And as you say, the promo beforehand, I thought Chad Gable maybe wasn't there. I thought maybe it was, against my better judgment, one of those contracty things, because his contract was supposed to be up on Friday, from what I remember. So
but the report is he's actually currently working without one.
Right, which is good and professional. Thank you, Chad Gable. I respect you for that. Although I hope you're getting paid for the appropriate amount.
Yeah. There are some people that are on like pay per appearance deals. Right. They don't know if Chad is one of them, but in theory, his contract is currently up.
Yeah. Either way, I wondered whether or not this would be a way to promo about Chad without Chad having to be there. But then Chad was there, so I was like, oh, so this part, to your point, didn't feel necessary. And I would have liked for the match to be more, because the after match segment I also quite enjoyed. I liked that Chad was sort of goading Otis, and then Otis takes out Sami, and it felt interesting. I just would have liked more of the actual match part. Yeah,
I don't know, man. I don't think you should just be battering your IC champion around, particularly because this is the second time they've done it now, because I don't think it did anything for Otis and it did little for Sami, and it does then nothing for the Chad match either. I also think the post-match angle, while good, is also covering ground that we've been in previously. Like when Chad is holding up Sami for Otis to hit him, I was like, I've seen this angle now like 4 times in the last 3 weeks.
You want your angle to do this to reach a big moment, and it does feel a little bit like this one is. It's like we're at this level.
Yeah, we have, and it is a good level. Yeah, because this, and that's the thing. I will say about on this show, it is so over. Even with this crowd, who didn't like a single thing on the show apart from Braun Strowman, they were super into Otis, hugely into Otis. And I guess the story they were doing, and which I think is a very effective story, is that Chad is Dr. Frankenstein, and at some point he will not be able to control the monster that he has made. Because
it's a clumsy comparison. I thought that when they brought it up on the show, but
because Otis does kind of turn on Gable a little bit.
Yeah.
Because Gable goes to celebrate with him after Otis decks Sami Zayn. Eventually he does pull the trigger and he does hit Sami Zayn and lays him out with the world's strongest slam. Chad goes to celebrate with him, and Otis turns around to him, and Gable sort of begs off into the corner. And the crowd are really into what Otis doing, and then he can't pull the trigger on Chad either, so he leaves. When he does pull that trigger, it's going to be an enormous pop.
Yeah.
So from that sense, I think it is a success. But overall, I have seen this angle a number of times. I'm looking for the next step of this, which I think is coming this Saturday.
I do too. Can I just point something quickly? Just a little pin in that, and I wonder how this is going to happen. I wonder whether we'll get onto it when you'll see our predictions tomorrow. But is it tomorrow? It's going up. I've just said tomorrow. Great. Sami was saying now, and he was about to say something else. I think Chad's going to get that little belt off him, and Sami's going to go off into Money in the Bank. And it was a nice transitional championship role. So then the IC title feud becomes about Chad versus Otis with the Creed brothers in it. And I think it was just interesting that he said something. It was about to say something and then was cut off. I think that was very deliberate.
To your point on that one, and we'll dive into this a little bit more on the prediction show tomorrow, because we'll record that after we've done this. I think you might be onto something there, because I also have got Chad down to win. And now when I'm sort of thinking about it, it's like, well, Sami does feel like the least important thing in this feud.
It's just there.
Yeah.
He's important. I think he's playing a role in it to be that kind of like the good angel on Otis's shoulder. But the next phase of it does not need him at all.
Exactly. Yeah. Miz was backstage looking for R-Truth, and R-Truth had set up a tag team title match for later on against the APA. It's actually against AOP, as it turns out. Thankfully, Michael Cole and Pat McAfee explain that joke later on.
WrestleMania was ages ago.
Mate,
sorry.
Dude, when they set up a tag title match, I was like, great!
Yeah,
great! Get the belts off of them. And they're in a feud with New Day. This makes so much more sense. Yep, let's get the belts off these lads. Let's wrap this one up. We'll get onto them in a little bit. We then had one of those. This felt like old Raw, where they just have a load of stretches of nothing and then end up with a very short match, and it kind of winds me up when I realize how much time we wasted. Because Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill came out for a commentary. Then we had an ad break. Then we had a promo for NXT. Then we had a recap of Kalani Jordan winning the North American Championship. I think in between this, we had other entrances for Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. Then we got a recap of Jey Uso announcing himself for Money in the Bank. Then we had a backstage promo with the Unholy Union. Then we got our match.
Yes.
And then the match went 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And time elsewhere on the show could have been spent here.
Yeah.
Because let me run ragged on this segment, if I may. The Unholy Union, because they are from Glass Cow, as the Americans would like to say, in a tag title match, in a triple threat tag title match, I quite pessimistically said, oh, they did a lame DQ finish because they're setting up a three-way match, because that is the Triple H method of doing things. Turns out my pessimism was actually correct. I didn't want it to be, but it was. They're having a match, despite the fact that they have not won a match on TV as a tag team since May of last year. They also have barely been featured on TV in that period of time either. This goes back to Piper Niven. It's just challenging for the women's title. Why? Well, she's from the area. Did you want to build her up before you put her into that title match? No. We're just going to rely on the fact that she'll get a local town pop, which means we don't actually have to do any work to make these people feel like superstars, to make them feel like they're actually worth title contenders, because the crowd will just do the work for us. We don't actually have to try here. And then we don't need to try with the Unholy Union either. Let's not feature them on TV. It's not like this show crept up on you. It's not like it's next week? Oh, man, we really should have thought about something. No, you've had time to do this. You could have put some pieces in place to make them feel like a credible tag team, get them over on TV, get them over in front of a live crowd, as opposed to just not featuring them on TV and then putting them out there in a 2.5 minute match, which they then fucking lose. Like, how is this getting them over ahead of a tag title match? Like, what was the point of any of this? The only thing I can think of is that Baszler and Stark are taking the pin.
Right.
So they've given them a win before they go into the show, because neither of these teams are winning the tag titles. So at least Baszler and Stark don't have to lose twice. In which case, don't book this match then.
Yeah, I see your frustration and completely agree with much of it. I would say also Baszler having lost to NXT Underground match against Lola Vice over the weekend was another reason to give them a win this week, just so I wouldn't have them do it over the Unholy Union. I'd use my time better and have a match for both of them against other tag teams.
Yeah.
Or give us a moment where like they get a win and the Unholy Union attack them backstage. To your point about it's interesting when we said to your point, that's the catchphrase of this episode. When they how do I put this? Just because you are successful and can rely on the hometown pop doesn't mean that you should. It is that thing of like, yeah, we can get away with phoning it in at the moment, but there's going to come a point where the hot cycle comes back down and you're going to wish that you'd done a bit more building work, or you're going to have to try that a little bit harder. Knowing there's if I'm like, we've got a Glasgow show, hey, we've got Piper Niven. Piper Niven is an interesting one because I think the work she's been doing with Chelsea Green over the past sort of year or so has been quite good. So I'm almost more like Piper. I like being in that position. Good for her, whatever. They have done a bit of work with them. Unholy Union have had some vignettes and not been on TV, and it's got on my nerves because I'm well into those characters, except those characters aren't there at the moment if you don't look at their Tron and the fact that Alba Fire comes down to the ring with a big wizard staff. I want them to not just be reduced to cutting promos just before they go out that sounds like a promo from any other person. I want, if you know you're doing a show, work backwards and go, right, we've got until June the 10th to build this to the point where people are gagging for the Saturday show. So 3 weeks before then, we're doing a women's title tag title tournament match. They should win that there. Well, just before then, we have a period of time. And it's that thing that we give WWE credit for at the moment, because in other places they absolutely do that. So I don't want it to be that this thing of WWE never do this, because they do. That's why we're holding them to account for it. When I critique AEW often, it's because you've shown me how good you can be. I now hold you to your own standard. WWE are at the point where I have faith in their long-term storytelling. They should apply that every single place, and that includes the women's tag division. If I want a successful Instagram career, I have to plan it ahead. You can't just be like, I'll just go with posting, because that, as I've learned in the past, gets you nowhere. So, planning is good.
Well, someone just pointed out in the chat there, they just did the same thing with Zelina Vega last year.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
It's easy.
Yeah, it's an easy win for us to just put the hometown person in a title match, but then we won't put any effort in whatsoever.
They did it in a lazy way with Indy and Candice getting a tag title shot in Australia.
What have they all got in common? It's always the women's division.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they haven't done this with Drew.
No.
Drew, it's been a long, steady build to get to this point where he's going to be challenging for the world title in front of Scotland.
The difference there, I suppose, and this is a very limp difference, is that Drew was already a star, so it was quite easy to find a way to get him back into this position, rather. It is that, though. I think it exposes it more on this show for 3 reasons. First of all, it's local. Second, so we care more about these people because we've seen them wrestling in tiny little venues. I think I saw Viper at the Resgal in Bethnal Green, so I feel very passionate about her doing well. And the same with Kaylee Ray and Isla Dawn. It's also that it's 2 matches on this show. It's both of them, and they are both women's division matches, and it's really irritating that it kind of exposes the issue.
It was less about getting Kaylee Ray and Isla Dawn on the show, and more about having the star presence of Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, which you should do.
Yeah. But you can do both.
You can but that's what I was going to say. You can have your cake and eat it. Because what else are you going to do with the cake?
That's maybe a conversation for After Dark.
Well, no, you wanted to shut me down for my sort of chat. You thought about cake sitting.
I didn't say the words.
Oh, it was implied. We have a video package for Bron Breakker.
WWE. Well, there was some nuance.
No, if this was WWE,
you need to say out loud.
Bron Breakker then had the match with Ilja Dragunov, which was awesome. And then backstage, Judgement Day were arguing over the hotel keycard. They'd found it and they put it on the table and they were like, whoa, okay, like none of us are going to do anything with this keycard. Damien Priest comes in like, what are you guys doing? Why are you all so lame? Like, why is this group lame? Why are you always on the show and lame? What do you do with a keycard? Sort this out. And they're like, yeah, we will. And they all put their fists into a fist bump. And Finn Balor takes that keycard and puts it in his pocket.
It's funny that we just made a joke about WWE being like laying it on thick, because there was something really, really Agatha Christie about they've all had the keycard in their hand at one point or another. So like the fingerprint, if you wanted to look for fingerprints, but also like they've shown us them all holding it. Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's going to disappear and we're not going to know who it was and then you're going to go back and be like, who was the last person to hold it? And then no, we just all saw in plain sight. Finn Balor go,
I'll have that now.
I'll go off for my match now, everybody. Don't worry about this key card. I searched for my spark and I found it.
I'm going out for some action, and I don't mean the match.
Yeah. That said, I still really enjoyed it.
It's campy fun. Like it's campy nonsense, and I don't mind it.
Yeah.
Drew and Sheamus had a chat backstage. Sheamus announcing himself for Money in the Bank, at least the qualifying matches, and Drew was like, well, I'm winning that world title, so don't you dare cash in on me. Because Drew's not winning the belt, and he's going to win Money in the Bank. And then we got Awesome Truth versus AOP for the World Tag Team titles.
When I looked at this point, there was like 28 minutes of the show left, and I was like, it was halfway through the section of video I was watching was 28 minutes. It was halfway through that, and I was like, how are we going to fit all of this stuff in?
Yeah.
We're going to fit in a title change at this point?
No, it's just this match goes another 2 minutes for this one. It almost feels like WWE every single time they're like, Craig, is it? We're in the 3rd hour already. We need to wrap up some of this stuff.
Shouldn't have given so much time to Braun Strowman and the LWO.
So, yeah, Awesome Truth's entrance makes me hate wrestling. It's so awful.
I think it's the worst rap ever made.
It's already a rap that I wasn't particularly fond of. That's made worse by The Miz.
Yeah,
The Miz timing his one bit that he has of this.
The Awesome Truth.
Miz times it every single time. He's genuinely terrible at this.
So I, as an avowed Miz stan, and as someone who has been getting a little bit shirty with Michael Cole over the past couple of weeks, who does an incredibly difficult job and has done it for a really long time, so I want to make sure I'm giving him credit. He said in a moment here, he just went, The Miz adds nothing to this. And I was like, Michael, I feel seen by you. Like, that is so fair. You are so valid and respected here, King. I love that.
Also, if I may rag on the Miz for a little bit here, the Miz's whole shtick for these last few weeks is, I don't want to defend these tag titles. He keeps going to Truth, like, stop booking us in tag title matches. He was chasing after Truth today, so you stop booking him in tag title matches. And then he was like, oh no, the book's against the AOP. Oh no, now what are we going to do? What does he do at the start of this match? He raps on his way to the ring like nothing matters, then just has a match. Why are you not acting? Why are you not selling the story that you've been telling? What is the point of any of this? And then they just win because of distraction, because it's Monday Night Raw and every match has it. I was so done with this show at this point, and it's been an okay show up until this point.
It was just very silly. I did not like it. I did not like
when
it.
When the pair of them are doing the 5-knuckle shuffle, I'm like, I hate them. I hate them. Anyway, they won.
Do you remember when we thought Miz was going to win the Intercontinental title off Gunther?
No. Oh, actually, no, I do. I do remember that. Do you remember when I had 5-star Miz as a thumbnail? I'm like, oh, man, it's the Miz, Miz Renaissance.
Seared into my memory. It was a wonderful time.
Then we had the Bron and Dragunov angle. And then our main event was Drew McIntyre beating Finn Balor despite the Finn interference from the Judgment Day. Drew overcame it and hit the Claymore for the win.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fine little match. Crowd went into it.
Can I put over specifically the overhead belly to belly suplex that Finn Balor took like an absolute champion? Because I was like, oh no, you just beheaded Finn Balor by giving him the suplex over the table. Do you know the one I mean?
Sorry, say again.
Wow.
Sorry, it's the moderators were messaging you or something. Sorry.
There was a section just as they were throwing a break where he did a belly to belly suplex overhead and it went over the table, and Finn tucked his neck at the most. We saw it in the slow mo. He tucked his neck at the perfect time.
Yeah,
fully straight body. He took it incredibly.
It was really nice.
Craft. I just wanted to really shout them out for that.
Genuinely, that's quite tricky to do.
Yes, it is.
He made it look like it was dead easy. Do you know when when Obafemi did that massive, when he just launched your man on Battleground?
Yeah.
You know how like that just
when he caught him and threw him,
yeah,
and he couldn't see him, yeah,
yeah. Like it just sort of looked effortless.
It does.
Like it just like on the second row, and he's just like actually yeet, not just replacing the word yes. Like it was genuinely incredible, and that is effortless. And it's in the same way that Finn Balor taking that table bump was just effortless for him.
That's just skill, man.
I gave this show 3 out of 5.
I really liked it. I think it did everything it needed to do for me. So I was just thumbs up.
Yeah. We're going to have a poll going up, so you can let us know your thoughts. Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle. Why don't you head on over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk. We'll read out all of your results and of that poll and your Ultrachats before the end of the show. If you go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk right now, you get loads of exclusive bonus podcasts. Myself and Ollie Davis running through the breakup of this Shield. We have got our next part of that coming up later this month, where we're going to be reviewing SummerSlam 2014, which is... it's actually quite a good little show, so I'm looking forward to covering that. And then we've got one more part of that before we reveal our next story, which we're really excited about. And you got exclusive episodes of Survival Series, early access to the Monday Night War, and loads of other good stuff. If you're one of our $25 or above Patreon Pledgehammers, you get your name read out in the show like these fine folk. Keeper of the Mask Mysteries, NG.
I'm afraid he's got some bad news. It's bad news, Bob the Ninja Goldfish.
The Eco Warrior, Brian.
Always leave the crowd wanting Brian more.
Chris, Hellfire Brimstone.
Chris, the Cypriot sensation Petru.
Hey, he's an all-star, Chuck Turner.
Daniel, sweet Mexican chocolate Ibarra.
On top of the world and the top rope, David Sanson.
A tall, handsome guy who has goals in life, Delonta Blaine.
Dr. Hook, Nolan Evans.
And Ellie.
Read the last bit.
I don't actually know. You do it.
Eli McCraig.
I was confused because the chant in his song is different. I was like, I didn't know what it was going to be.
So thank you all so much. That is your Hall of Fame class for the 11th of June 2024. Let's get to the rest of your chats. We have got this here from Kazulok, who said, I haven't watched wrestling in earnest since 2001 until WrestleMania this year, so I feel like I've missed something. What is the rest of Judgment Day's obsession with Liv? I understand her messing with Dom to get to Rhea, but I can't figure out the rest.
Well, I think the it's because she's been talking to them all secretly one-on-one backstage various times, so she's in their heads.
They don't know.
Yeah.
Like, Finn Balor does not know that she's also been in with JD, and JD does not know that Balor is having this conversation.
Or rather, they don't know. I think
or maybe they do.
it's also this thing of they protect their own, and she's trying to infiltrate and take Dom away, and Rhea, blah blah blah, all of this stuff. It's not out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the story isn't finished yet.
Yeah. I won't make that joke. Greg here says, a quick little bit of fantasy booking. Otis gets put into the Intercontinental title match to help Gable and accidentally ends up winning it. Thoughts? Also, I saw Limp Bizkit in May. Such a phenomenal show. I love those lyrics. Because I've been doing them on the WrestleTalk News.
I know you have.
I'm seeing them this Saturday.
Limp Bizkit is, to me, what Drag Race is to the people in the comments.
I disagree.
But yeah, because I just let you do it. And I don't say anything about it.
Well, no, because I let you do all your Drag Race stuff.
No, but the comments don't like it, was the point.
Well, I mean, the comments love it when I do Limp Bizkit reference.
Love
it, because we're all of a certain age.
And you're all wearing jorts. Anyway, that is not how I would put that on Sami, on Otis. I think the title, after all the work Gunther's done to do it, accidentally giving it to Otis is a mistake.
I think that Otis, there's a chance that Otis walks out on Chad at the end of this show, but I think we may see maybe the Creed brothers getting involved instead, but we'll certainly see. Some guy here said, about a week ago, MSG apparently advertised Priest versus Jay for the World Heavyweight title after the Clash. Do you think it's a possibility that Punk cost Drew at Clash to set up a non-title program and Priest drops to Jay, who transitions to Gunther at SummerSlam? So, announcing matches for those shows, that it means nothing.
It always says cards subject to change.
Yeah.
They have to advertise something to try and get you in the door, but also it would be really, really, really bad if they told us that Drew McIntyre was going to be facing Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight title.
So you have to advertise who the current World Heavyweight champion is. I mean, if you wanted to, you could just advertise The Undertaker versus Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Because it's cards subject to change.
Yeah. You shouldn't. That's bad practice.
That is bad practice. But what they're doing is just saying, like, here is a match, buy tickets, but that match might not be the match. But having said that, I do think that Punk is going to cost Drew at Clash.
You do.
And I don't think that Jay wins at Madison Square Garden because I don't think he will. Charles Berg here said, R-Truth giddily saying, we're going to die tonight, gave me a hearty laugh. Ricochet took maybe the most painful looking bump I've seen in forever. Bron's going to be a top champ within a year. Clam that clam. Blake here says, you know how Gunther's arrogance cost him the IC title? I want to see him at his most arrogant when Obafemi debuts, and Obafemi treats Gunther like Goldberg treated Lesnar at Survivor Series 2016. I love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
I don't want to hurry anything before it's time. I'm always erring on the side of caution, but that is a great shout.
Love if Obafemi just came into the main roster and just dominated Gunther and beat him in like a minute and a half.
Holy crap.
That would be incredible. Cascadia93 said, I'm quite happy for Ricochet to get away from WWE. He was plagued by Vince's booking, and he was never the same star that front flipped out of the ring and landed on his feet in front of the Velveteen Dream on the main roster. He was Brock Food instead.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Blake here said, I've got another idea for a My GM punishment. Instead of the 1 minute power card for going over a few seconds, if you go over by less than 5, the other two players get to pick the music you listen to during their turns for the next episode.
That is a cruel and unnecessary punishment.
You see, the thing is, I don't think it is. I like all the music you listen to.
That's the thing.
And I like the music that Pete listens to as well, so I would just have a nice time.
I don't want to listen to Scene Queen.
Which is a shame.
Respect to her. I just don't want to on that occasion.
Yeah, well, I think you just need to open your ears a little bit.
Look, I don't dislike Scene Queen. Just in that moment, that's what I want to watch.
Do you think I'd give you Acid Bath? God. I mean, 100%, Dan. If I had to pick music for you, you bet your bottom dollar I'm picking some Slayer. I'm gonna find some Hatebreed. I'm gonna find some like pure black metal.
I like my girl pop, and I'll not be chastened for it.
Or just make you listen to Limp Bizkit because they're great. See them this Saturday. Dylan here said, "Good morning, guys. It's 7 a.m. in America here. Dan, your shirt looks fantastic today.
Thank you very much.
It is a nice shirt.
Thank you."
Dan arrived at the office today. Sullivan, Dom, and I were just standing outside having a chat, and Sullivan just said, Dan, you're looking great today.
I've been trying really hard. I got a haircut. I went to the gym. I'm thank you. I appreciate that.
And he's not wrong. Swaggle Bond said, how can I bait Luke into going into a rant about his top favorite Bluey characters? Bandit Healer is a top 5 anime dad. Well,
I don't think you need to bait him.
No.
Other than, we have another show to record after this, so maybe we shouldn't right now.
But, Bingo's the best character. Carter Threet here said, hey, guys, thank you for the podcast. The only thing that keeps me sane at work, just a side note, Luke, please make a video about Metallica's Saint Anger. You said you won't have an audience, but that audience is me. I think I'm pretty sure Todd in the Shadows has done one. So go and check out Todd in the Shadows. He's done I think he's done a video on Saint Anger, and he's a very good video essayist. So go and check him out. Or listen to the POD cast. They did a review of Metallica's Saint Anger and how it is a new metal album and how it was Metallica realizing that thrash was not the in thing anymore, but new metal was, but didn't really know how to make a new metal album. So they just did it in the edits. They recorded a bunch of songs, then just chopped them up, and then just sort of like Frankenstein all these tracks together. And it is a mess of an album, and it sounds like arse.
Not unlike how Girls Aloud made Biology. Do you know this story about Biology? It's a great song, but they basically took like 2 different songs and went the verse of that, the chorus of that, the verse of that, the chorus of that, pop song. And it was so good.
That's great. Carter here said, oh no, we just did that one. Said, I Make Beat said, come on, Everest is definitely a top character. She has a snowmobile. My favorite character would have to be Rubble or Sky, but only because she has a wicked aircraft. Can't forget Chickaletta either. P.S. Did you see the main of Dominion? The match was awesome. I actually haven't seen much of Dominion yet.
Tempest did.
Yeah, Tempest did. I haven't actually seen much of Dominion. I need to try and catch up on that in the week.
It.
But yeah, like I love Sky. She's the MVP of the Mighty movie. I'm not a Rubble guy. I'm glad that he got his spin-off, but I can't believe that Rubble is the Frasier of Paw Patrol. Like, it's the one guy you didn't expect to get a spin-off. It's like, what, that guy? But then actually turns out Rubble and Crew's pretty good.
I mean, yeah.
I run hot and cold on Marshall, ironically enough, because he is a firefighter.
That is ironic.
And so I don't like his jokes sometimes. I think, it's not time, Marshall, but there's actually some like real danger we need to thwart here. I don't need you making jokes about this. And then he had a cameo in Rubble and Crew, and I turned to my wife, I was like, it feels like a genuine celebrity has shown up on this show.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but it's Everest. I think you're right. For me, it's Zuma. Zuma has a hovercraft.
And for me, Bojangles is the one.
And JPEG here said, I will Samantha Irvin. She was so good. I will Samantha Irvin.
I can't work out if there was a typo or what. Either way, she was very good in this segment.
She was very good. Actually, she was genuinely sold it really, really good. So let's end the poll and see what you thought about this episode. 57% thumbs up, 35% thumbs in the middle.
What? It's been a long show.
57% thumbs up.
57?
Yeah, 57% thumbs up, 35% thumbs in the middle.
57 is very low.
Well, I thought this was a very mid episode. Huh. I think it was a very... do you know what? This did not feel like the go-home episode.
I certainly woke up. Maybe it's because I was at the House of the Dragon thing yesterday and I was in a good mood. Maybe I really enjoyed it, yeah.
But anyway, that's what we've got time for on this episode of the show. Thank you all so much for joining us. We will be back tomorrow with the Clash of the Castle predictions.
Yeah, we will.
And then on Thursday, it'll be myself and Oliver Davis reviewing AEW Dynamite. And then on Sunday, it'll be Ollie and Sat reviewing Clash at the Castle. And then we're back for more of the same next week.
Lovely.
So we'll see you then. Until then, I've been Luke Cohen, DAD. That has been Dan Layton. He is beautiful. Jam that jam.